The air in Willow Springs, Ohio, was heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth as Jason Taylor, 38, stood before the small white casket of his 5-year-old son, Elijah. The church was packed, the pews filled with neighbors and friends, their whispers cutting through the silence like knives. "Where's his wife?" they murmured, their eyes boring into Jason's back. Elijah's favorite stuffed butterfly, its wings faded from years of hugs, lay tucked inside the casket. It was the one thing that brought him comfort during his battle with leukemia, a battle he'd lost just days ago. Jason's chest tightened as he traced the butterfly's worn edges, wishing he could have protected his son when it mattered most. Emily, Jason's wife, wasn't there. She'd told him she was in Chicago for an urgent business meeting, unavoidable even on the day of their son's funeral. Jason had believed her, chalking it up to her way of coping with grief. But as he stood by Elijah's casket, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Reflexively, he glanced at it, expecting condolences or a logistical question about the service. Instead, his blood ran cold. The message was from an unknown number, and attached was a photo so sharp it could have been taken minutes ago. Emily, lounging by a pool under the Hawaiian sun, her skin glowing, a cocktail in her manicured hand. A tanned, smug-looking man had his arm around her. Below the image, a message read, "Thought you should see what your wife's really doing today. A concerned friend." Jason's vision blurred, the image searing into his mind. His hand trembled as he shoved the phone back into his pocket, as if hiding it could erase what he'd seen. Emily wasn't in Chicago. She wasn't grieving their son. She was sipping margaritas in paradise, tangled with a stranger. The weight of her betrayal hit him like a freight train, but there was no time to process it. His mother, Ruth, squeezed his arm, her voice a whisper. "Jason, you're shaking." He nodded, forcing himself to focus. The funeral director gave him a subtle cue, and somehow, Jason's legs carried him to the front of the church. He sat where Emily should have been, his shoulders squared, refusing to let the town see him unravel. The whispers grew louder, speculation about Emily's absence, gossip about their marriage. Willow Springs thrived on rumors, and Jason knew they'd feast on this. But he wouldn't give them the satisfaction of breaking. Not yet. As the pastor spoke of Elijah's love for life, his boundless energy, even in his sickest moments, Jason's mind raced. He remembered Elijah's tiny hands, stained with paint from drawing butterflies, his giggles filling the hospital room. The casket was adorned with paper butterflies, a tribute to his son's favorite thing. Emily had always called them childish, but Jason had insisted they were for Elijah. Now, she didn't even deserve to be part of this moment. His phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from Emily. "I'm so sorry I couldn't make it. Work was unavoidable. I'll make it up to you." Make it up? The words ignited a fire in Jason's chest. Make up for missing their son's funeral? For sipping cocktails while he buried Elijah? The rage burned hotter than his grief, if only for a moment. He clenched his fists, nails digging into his palms, and made a silent vow. Emily would answer for this. As he stood to deliver Elijah's eulogy, Jason looked out at the crowd, neighbors, colleagues, family friends. Each story he shared about Elijah's joy, his resilience, was a promise to protect his son's legacy. His voice didn't waver. He didn't shed a tear. Those would come later when he was alone. For now, this was about Elijah. But deep down, Jason knew one thing for certain. Emily thought she could betray him and walk away unscathed. She was wrong. So very wrong. Jason couldn't shake the image of Emily by that Hawaiian pool, her arm around a stranger while their son's funeral loomed. Back home in Willow Springs, Ohio, the silence of the house was suffocating. Elijah's room remained untouched, his butterfly drawings pinned to the walls, his stuffed butterfly on the bed. Jason sat on the edge of Elijah's mattress, clutching the toy, his mind racing. Emily's betrayal wasn't just personal. It felt calculated, like she'd planned to erase their life together. He needed answers. In Emily's home office, Jason rifled through her desk, his hands shaking with a mix of dread and fury. Under a stack of papers, he found it. A life insurance policy for $1 million, taken out on Elijah 6 months after his diagnosis. Emily was listed as the sole beneficiary. Jason's name, which should have been there, was gone, replaced by a forged signature. His stomach churned. She'd planned this while Elijah was still fighting, while Jason sat by his hospital bed. Digging deeper, he uncovered more. A contract for the sale of their family home, the one where Elijah took his first steps. Emily's signature was scrawled across it alongside another forged version of Jason's. The sale was set to close in days. She wasn't just stealing money, she was dismantling their past, piece by piece, to fund her escape. The realization hit like a punch. Emily hadn't just abandoned him at the funeral, she'd been planning to abandon everything. Jason's phone buzzed, snapping him out of his spiral. It was his mother, Ruth, her voice sharp with urgency. "Jason, come to the house. I found something." He drove to his parents' place, the documents clutched in a folder. Ruth met him at the door, her eyes blazing. "I knew Emily was up to something," she said, leading him to the kitchen table. She slid a notebook toward him, filled with meticulous notes. "Her parents, Linda and Frank, have been sniffing around for months, asking about your father's assets. They even tried to get him to sign something when he was confused." Jason's father, Ed, had early-stage dementia, his memory slipping like sand through fingers. The thought of Emily's parents exploiting him made Jason's blood boil. Ruth pointed to a specific entry. "Linda brought papers last month, said it was for estate planning. I sent her away, but I kept this." She handed him a document, a draft of a power of attorney form with Ed's signature scrawled shakily at the bottom. It was another forgery. "They're after everything," Jason said, his voice low but steady. "The house, the insurance money, Dad's savings." Ruth nodded. "I've been watching them. Linda's always coddled Emily, but this? It's a scheme." Jason's mind raced, connecting dots. Late-night calls Emily dismissed as work. Sudden business trips when Elijah's condition worsened. Her insistence on needing space to cope. He chalked it up to grief, but now it was clear she'd been plotting her exit for months. He needed more evidence. Back home, Jason scoured their joint accounts online. Thousands had been siphoned to an offshore account in Emily's name, small transfers disguised as consulting fees. Each one was a stab to the heart. How had he missed this? He'd been so focused on Elijah, on hospital visits and late-night prayers, that he hadn't seen her betrayal unfolding. His phone rang, an unknown number. "Hello," he answered, his voice rough. "Jason Taylor? This is Sarah. We need to talk about Emily." The woman's tone was clipped, urgent. "Meet me at Maple Brew in an hour." She hung up before he could ask who she was. Suspicion gnawed at him, but the promise of answers was too strong to ignore. He grabbed the insurance policy and the sale contract, shoving them into his bag. If the Sarah knew something, he'd hear her out. At Maple Brew, a cozy coffee shop on Main Street, Jason spotted her instantly, a woman with dark blonde hair tied back, sitting in a corner booth, her posture rigid. She didn't look up as he approached, just stirred her coffee slowly. Jason slid into the seat across from her, dropping his folder with a thud. "You've got 5 minutes," he said, crossing his arms. Sarah raised an eyebrow, unfazed. "Fair enough. Your wife's been seeing my ex, Brandon, for over a year. They're planning to take the insurance money and start over in Maui." Her words hit like a sledgehammer. Jason leaned forward, his jaw tight. "I know about Hawaii. I've got a photo." Sarah smirked, but there was no humor in it. "Oh, you know? Do you know about the $1 million she's funneling to him? Or the beach house they're buying?" She slid her phone across the table. Text messages filled the screen. "Emily to Brandon, the payouts secured. We'll be gone by month's end. Maui's waiting, babe." Another. Jason's too broken to notice. "It's done." Jason's vision blurred with rage. "How do you have this?" he demanded. "Brandon's not exactly discreet," Sarah said, her voice bitter. "He bragged about it for weeks. I didn't believe him until he showed me proof, bank transfers, flight plans, even a photo of the house they're eyeing. Emily's been wiring money to a joint account with him." She pushed a stack of printed screenshots toward him. "I'm not here to save you, Jason. I'm here because she screwed me over too." He studied her, searching for a lie, but her eyes were steady, her anger mirroring his own. "Why should I trust you?" he asked. "You shouldn't," she admitted. "But you need me. They're meeting a realtor tomorrow to finalize the house sale. If you want to stop them, you're running out of time." Jason's mind raced. Emily wasn't just cheating, she was orchestrating a heist, stripping away everything he and Elijah had. The house, the money, their memories. He thought of Elijah's butterfly drawings, his laughter echoing in the halls. He wouldn't let her erase that. "I'm in," he said, his voice like steel. "What's the plan?" Sarah leaned forward, her voice low. "We hit them where it hurts. But we need more than these papers. We need to catch them in the act. She slid a thick envelope across the table. Bank records, emails, everything I've got. It's enough to start, but you'll need to move fast. Jason took the envelope, its weight heavy in his hands. As he stood to leave, Sarah called after him. Jason, I'm sorry about your son. For what it's worth. He nodded, unable to speak, and walked into the cold Ohio night. His grief was still raw, but now it was fuel. Emily thought she could outsmart him, steal his son's legacy, and walk away. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Jason barely slept, the envelope from Sarah burning a hole in his mind. The documents inside, bank transfers, emails, and a photo of the Maui beach house Emily and Brandon planned to buy, were a roadmap of betrayal. He sat in Elijah's room, the stuffed butterfly in his lap, its worn wings a reminder of his son's fragile joy. The clock was ticking. Emily and her parents, Linda and Frank, were meeting the realtor tomorrow to finalize the sale of the family home in Willow Springs, Ohio. Jason had one day to stop them. He called Marcus, his old friend and lawyer, at dawn. I've got proof, Jason said, his voice hoarse. Forged signatures, siphon money, a whole scheme. Emily's trying to take everything. Marcus didn't hesitate. Send me everything. We'll file an injunction to stop the sale, but we need to move fast. Meet me at my office by 9. Before leaving, Jason stopped by his parents' house. Ruth was in the kitchen, her notebook of Linda's shady visits open on the table. There's more, she said, sliding a USB drive toward him. I recorded a call last week. Linda thought she was talking to Ed, but it was me. She admitted they needed the house sale to secure Emily's future. Jason's jaw tightened. They'd preyed on his father's dementia, exploiting Ed's confusion to push their agenda. The USB was another weapon in his arsenal. At Marcus's office, a cramped space downtown, Jason spread out the evidence. The insurance policy naming Emily as the sole beneficiary, the forged sale contract, Sarah's screenshots of Emily's texts to Brandon, and Ruth's recording. Marcus scanned the documents, his brow furrowed. This is fraud, plain and simple. The forged signatures alone could land them in court, but the insurance scam and the transfers. That's criminal. He tapped the USB. This recording's gold, but we need to verify it's admissible. And this Sarah, who is she to you? Jason hesitated. She's Brandon's ex, says she wants to take Emily down for screwing her over. I don't fully trust her, but her evidence checks out. Marcus nodded, skeptical. Watch your back. She's got her own motives. Let's focus on the injunction for now. If we can freeze the sale, we buy time to build a case. Jason's phone buzzed as they worked. A text from Sarah. Meet me at Maple Brew. Got something new. He glanced at Marcus, who shrugged. Go. But don't share everything yet. Jason grabbed his folder and headed out, the weight of Elijah's butterfly in his pocket grounding him. At the coffee shop, Sarah was already there, her eyes scanning the room like she expected trouble. She slid a new stack of papers across the table. Bank records, she said. Emily transferred another $50,000 to Brandon last night. And this. She showed him an email from Emily to Linda. Jason's distracted. He won't notice the sale until it's done. Get Frank to keep him off our backs. Jason's blood boiled. Frank, Emily's father, had always been the quiet one. But now he was complicit too. Why are you doing this? Jason asked, his voice sharp. You don't know me. What's in it for you? Sarah's gaze hardened. Brandon dumped me for Emily, but that's not it. She promised him half the money, then told me she'd cut him loose once they got to Maui. She's playing everyone, including him. I'm done being collateral damage. Her words rang true, but a flicker of doubt lingered. Was Sarah really on his side? Or was she playing her own game? Fine, Jason said. But if you're lying, I'll find out. Sarah smirked. Fair. Just be at the realtor's office tomorrow, 10 a.m. They're signing the papers. Bring your lawyer. Back at Marcus's office, they worked late, drafting the injunction. Marcus uncovered another bombshell. Linda had tried to access Ed's retirement account, claiming to act on his behalf. The bank had flagged it, but the attempt showed how far Emily's parents were willing to go. "This isn't just about the house," Marcus said. "They're after your whole family's legacy." Jason's phone buzzed again. Another message from the unknown number that sent the Hawaii photo. "Check Emily's laptop. Hidden folder. New start." His heart raced. Was this Sarah, covering her tracks? Or someone else? At home, he powered up Emily's laptop, guessing her password, Elijah's birthday. A folder labeled New Start was buried in her files. Inside were flight confirmations to Maui, a lease agreement for a beach house, and a chilling note to Brandon. Once the house sells, we're free. Jason will never recover. The betrayal cut deeper than he'd imagined. Emily hadn't just planned to leave. She'd counted on his grief to blind him, but she'd underestimated him. He forwarded the files to Marcus, who texted back, "This seals it. We've got them." Jason leaned back, staring at Elijah's butterfly drawings on the wall. "I'm doing this for you, buddy," he whispered. Tomorrow he'd face Emily and her parents head-on. They thought he was broken, but he was ready to fight. The morning sun cast long shadows over Willow Springs, Ohio, as Jason Taylor gripped his folder of evidence, the weight of Elijah's stuffed butterfly in his pocket grounding him. Today was the day, 10 a.m., the realtor's office, where Emily and her parents, Linda and Frank, planned to finalize the sale of the family home. Jason's lawyer, Marcus, had filed an injunction to stop it, but Jason knew he needed to face them himself. He wasn't just fighting for the house. He was fighting for Elijah's legacy, for every butterfly drawing pinned to his son's walls. Marcus met him outside the realtor's office, a nondescript building on Main Street. "The injunction's filed," Marcus said, adjusting his tie. "But we need to make this public. Show them we're not bluffing." Jason nodded, his jaw tight. Inside the folder were the forged insurance policy, the fake sale contract, Sarah's screenshots of Emily's texts to Brandon, Ruth's recording of Linda, and the damning files from Emily's laptop. It was enough to bury them. As Jason stepped inside, he spotted Emily and Linda at a sleek conference table, their polished smiles masking their scheme. Frank stood by the window, silent but complicit. The realtor, a nervous man in a cheap suit, shuffled papers. Emily's eyes widened when she saw Jason. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice sharp with feigned surprise. Jason dropped the folder on the table, papers spilling out. "Stopping you," he said coldly. "You thought I wouldn't notice you forging my signature? Stealing Elijah's insurance money? Selling our home?" Emily's face paled, but she recovered quickly, her tone syrupy. "Jason, you're grieving. You're not thinking straight. We're just trying to secure our future." "Our future?" Jason's voice rose, cutting through her act. He turned to the realtor. "Did she tell you she forged my signature on the sale contract? Or that she siphoned $1 million from our son's life insurance?" The realtor froze, glancing at the papers. Linda interjected, her voice dripping with condescension. "This is a family matter, Jason. No need for theatrics." "Theatrics?" Jason slammed his hand on the table, making everyone flinch. "You preyed on my father's dementia, Linda. You tried to trick him into signing away his savings. And you," he turned to Emily, "you were sipping cocktails in Hawaii while I buried our son." He pulled out his phone and played Ruth's recording. Linda's voice crackled through. "We need the house sold, Ed. It's for Emily's future." The room went silent. Frank shifted uncomfortably, avoiding Jason's gaze. Emily's composure cracked. "You don't understand," she stammered. "I was under stress. We all were." Jason cut her off, sliding Sarah's screenshots across the table. Texts from Emily to Brandon. Jason's too broken to notice. "The money's ours." The realtor's eyes widened as he read. This changes things," he muttered, pushing the sale papers away. Jason wasn't done. He played the recording Sarah had given him, Emily and Brandon discussing the Maui house. "The payouts on the account. Once the house sells, we're set," Emily's voice said. "What about Jason?" Brandon asked. "He'll never see it coming," she replied. Emily's face turned ashen. "You recorded me?" she whispered. "Not me," Jason said, leaning forward. "Someone you crossed. You thought you could steal Elijah's legacy and walk away. You're wrong." He turned to the realtor. "This sale's illegal. Check the signatures. Check the bank transfers. Marcus filed an injunction this morning. You proceed, you're complicit in fraud." The realtor stood, grabbing his briefcase. "I'm out," he said, practically bolting for the door. Linda's eyes narrowed. "You're making a mistake, Jason. You can't prove anything." But her voice wavered. Jason met her gaze. "Try me. Every email, every transfer, every lie. It's all here. And Marcus is already talking to the DA." Emily grabbed Linda's arm. "Mom, stop. He's not bluffing." For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. Frank finally spoke, his voice low. "We were just helping Emily move on." Jason laughed bitterly. "Move on? You mean cash in on my son's death?" He pointed to the door. "Get out, both of you, or I'll make sure every paper in Willow Springs knows what you did." Linda opened her mouth, but Emily pulled her toward the exit, their steps unsteady. As the door slammed behind them, Marcus clapped Jason on the shoulder. "You did it. The sale's dead. But this is just the start. We've got enough for a civil suit, maybe criminal charges." Jason nodded, his chest tight. He'd won this battle, but the war wasn't over. Emily thought she could break him, but she'd awakened something stronger, a father's resolve to protect his son's memory. Jason Taylor stood in the quiet of Willow Springs, Ohio, the weight of the past weeks pressing on his shoulders. The confrontation at the realtor's office had stopped the sale of his family home, but Emily's betrayal, her scheme to steal Elijah's $1 million insurance payout and sell their house, cut deeper than he'd imagined. With Marcus, his lawyer, leading the charge, Jason was ready to make her and her parents, Linda and Frank, face the consequences. Marcus's office became a war room. They pored over the evidence, forged insurance documents, Emily's texts to her lover Brandon, bank transfers to offshore accounts, and Ruth's recording of Linda manipulating Jason's dementia-stricken father, Ed. "We've got them on fraud, theft, and conspiracy," Marcus said, stacking legal briefs. "But we need to nail every angle." Jason nodded, clutching Elijah's stuffed butterfly. This wasn't just about money, it was about protecting his son's legacy. Sarah, Brandon's ex, proved an unlikely ally. She delivered more evidence, emails showing Linda and Frank's active role in funneling money to Emily's secret accounts. But Jason's gut twisted when Sarah admitted, "I helped Brandon set up one account early on. I thought it was just a side hustle. I didn't know about Elijah." Her confession made Jason wary, but her proof was undeniable. "Stay honest," he warned. "Or you're next." The bombshell came when Marcus uncovered a hidden layer. Emily had tried to transfer Ed's retirement savings, exploiting his confusion. "This is elder abuse," Marcus said. "The DA's interested." Jason's rage flared. Emily's family had no limits. A final clue surfaced in Elijah's room, a note tucked in a butterfly drawing written in Emily's hand, "Sell the house by month's end." Jason's too lost to notice. It was dated weeks before Elijah's death. She'd planned to erase their son's memory while he was still alive. The lawsuit hit fast. Marcus filed charges against Emily, Linda, and Frank for fraud, theft, and elder abuse. Jason sat in court, his mother Ruth beside him as the evidence unfolded. Sarah took the stand, her testimony damning. Emily promised Brandon half the insurance money for a new life in Maui. She said Jason would never fight back. But the real blow came when Brandon, facing his own charges, turned on Emily. He handed over texts and bank records confirming her plan to flee with the money after the house sold. Emily tried to play the victim, her eyes teary. "I was grieving," she said. But the judge wasn't swayed. Linda and Frank's smug facade crumbled as their signatures appeared on forged documents. The courtroom buzzed when the verdict came, guilty on multiple counts. The house was returned to Jason and the insurance payout was frozen, redirected to a trust in Elijah's name. Emily and her parents faced fines, probation, and potential jail time. Their reputation in Willow Springs was shattered, their names now synonymous with scandal. Jason channeled the insurance money into the Elijah Taylor Foundation, funding pediatric cancer research and support for families like his. At the hospital where Elijah spent his final days, Jason met parents whose kids were fighting the same battle. "This is for him," he told them, handing over the first grant check. For the first time in months, hope flickered in his chest. One crisp autumn morning, Jason visited Elijah's grave. The simple headstone, etched with a tiny butterfly, glowed in the sunlight. He knelt, placing a paper butterfly beside it. "We did it, buddy," he whispered. "The house is safe. Your name's Helping Kids now." A monarch butterfly landed on the headstone, its wings catching the light. Jason smiled, tears welling. "You'd love this." His father, Ed, joined him, his steps slow but steady. "Elijah was right about you," Ed said, his voice clear despite his fading memory. "He said you were strong." Jason's throat tightened. "I'm trying, Dad." They stood in silence, the butterfly fluttering away free. Jason felt the weight of grief lift just a fraction. It wasn't about revenge anymore, it was about honoring Elijah. Driving home, Jason glanced at Ed. "Pancakes?" he asked, a faint smile breaking through. Ed's eyes lit up. Elijah loved pancakes. Jason nodded, his heart bittersweet. The fight had cost him, but it had saved Elijah's legacy. Emily thought she could break him. She was wrong. He'd survived for his son.